Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Monday, January 6th, 2020. Happy New Year, everyone. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Really quickly, I do want to invite you all to join me later on this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. So right after the market closes, basically, we are going to get together for a monthly market outlook, the first one of 2020, the first one of January here. And we are going to talk not only markets, but also look for prospects, not only for the month of January, but also into the first quarter of January as well. So we're going to look at a ton of candidates. Please join me later on at pivotboss.ecofin.co. If you do not have an account to jump into the free trading room there, or the free community room for the event, then you can come in here and create your own username and password absolutely free, and you can jump into the PivotBoss community room and join us for the monthly outlook. So again, that's going to be later on this afternoon here at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. So please join me at pivotboss.ecofin.co. All right, let's take a look now at the market here. For the most part, what you'll notice here is the market has pulled back from recent highs. You had the first trading day of the year, it closed at an all-time high. Second trading day of the year, we saw a rejection of the previous high and then an outside day down until it bounced back up. And now we're seeing just kind of a little doji-like pattern that's developing here in the lower half of Friday's range. For the most part, we've been trending higher, and anytime we see an uptrend like that, you tend to look to defend the pivot range for a shot at bouncing higher. That was the strategy here in both November and December, all the way actually through October, really. On this pullback, even though it wasn't as clean here, it held on the 200 and rallied. This one got close here and then rallied. Here it held and rallied, and this is it again. So what we're going to do is see, can price hold this zone? Can it hold 31.55 there? Because if so, then as low as that, it can get as low as that and still be a buying opportunity for a continuation higher. It's basically what it did last month. So we'll see how this develops here early on to begin the month. At the moment, we're seeing a bit of selling pressure of prices above VWAP on an intraday basis and at 1 and 5 day VPOC. And we're also seeing price stay below the previous month's close price after rejecting the previous month's high. That would tend to suggest that we are going to pull back toward the midpoint of the range, which again, that is a very thinly traded part of this chart right now. So that could certainly be in play here. If we cannot get above this blue dot, we likely come back to the bottom pink line at around 31.62. All right, let's take a look here at the NQ. For the most part, the NQ looks very similar. We had a close above and beyond the previous month's high, which is a new all-time high. We had a rejection of that high and a pullback, and now we're trading in the lower half of the previous session's range. Additionally, what you see here is that price is holding below the previous month's close price there. And again, if you reject this one and then you can't stay above that one, then the next one to test would be that bottom of the pivot range in an uptrending market. So right there, 8,500 would be the next target or potential target. Again, that's very thinly traded part of the profile there after the bulk of the trade has been down below that zone. So keep an eye on the previous month's close. Any failure to get going beyond that zone would likely suggest a pushback down. All right, let's take a look now at crude oil. All right, here's crude. With crude oil, you'll notice that we had a pretty significant day up here, and the last time we were this high was back on the Saudi oil strike right here. And now we saw an explosion right through that zone, and this time it was the Iran situation that is continuing to grow overseas right now. And so that type of price action here has been building throughout the month. The recent pullback here into 55 got as high as 64, rather 64.72, almost as high as 65. That's a near 10-point rally right there where this thing has really run off. Now again, it's always difficult to predict how the conflict will continue to play out, but we are at a zone in the chart here where there hasn't been much acceptance lately. And so beyond this FOMC key level here, which is the May FOMC key level, that level is 63.38. The price hasn't really been able to hold above that zone since its inception here, choosing to drop each and every time. Right now, we have tested it and pushed through it the last 2 days. Do we close back below that zone? How is it going to play out? Because if this is an impulse rally here, and that's a good top, then we could be looking at some sort of pullback here that gives us a new key range to work with, and that pullback could get us back toward this 59.65 to 60 zone. So we'll keep an eye on how this develops here today. But again, if we develop a rejection here and continue to look this weak off this high, then at the very least we see a reversion to the mean, even if that means a buying opportunity and a continuation given the situation overseas. So just a few things to consider here with regards to crude oil. Now we'll take a look at gold futures. With regards to gold, we've seen a pretty significant rally. I mentioned one thing before is that this range right here was looking very similar to what we saw just before we lifted off last time in the end of May, early June. We saw that lift off and a continuation. This is the next run right now. And we talked about the potential breakout as well as we got in here and we were forming higher lows. I mentioned if we can get above 1500 here, it starts to open up a pretty big move up. This is the first leg that we're seeing right now, and we're nearly at 1600. 1590.9 is the high. Again, this is a new high here for the last 6-7 years. I mean, this thing has not been this high. So this is a good first move. It wouldn't surprise me if we now develop some sort of range before we continue higher throughout Q1. So very similar to here. You get that first big wave. You see some compression and some re-energizing of that energy, and then you see a continuation. So right now, pretty solid move up. The expectation is for much more strength ahead, likely perhaps into 1650 or beyond. But first, perhaps we may need to see some sort of compression before the next expansion occurs. All right, that's it for now. Please be sure to join me later on this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Central for the PivotBoss Monthly Market Outlook. If you know someone who you think might enjoy it, feel free to please pass it along. And everyone else, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.